If the darkness we see arising in the collective is really our projection, do we heal it then simply by witnessing it and knowing it as part of our wholeness? If we think about the darkness that somehow we have projected onto this canvas, and if we do not like this projection so much, if it feels unnatural, if it feels dark, then if we simply witness it, and witnessing to me implies we let it be as it is, we let it breathe as it is, not the way that we describe it or biased it or given it meaning. That's not as it is. We don't add any meaning. That's what it means to witness. And then even the label darkness will disappear. And you will see that what you've been calling darkness is quite literally and paradoxically made of light. Hi everyone, can you hear me? Good morning, good evening, good night. I love you. Let's take a deep breath and relax. Take a deep breath of light into your heart. And relax. Take another deep breath into your heart. And relax. Now briefly ask yourself the question, what is me? It's the same question as the famous one, who am I? Albeit a little less poetic and a bit more scientific. What is me? Or what is I? Is it this thought? Is it this wall in your room? Is I the sensation of your body? The thoughts in your mind? Display within awareness? The colors? Are you any particular color? How about the shapes? The shapes in your room, the shapes in your mind, the shapes of your body. Is any of these shapes equal to that which hears my voice? The I, that innermost me. And if the answer is clearly no, at least intellectually, and maybe intuitively, then the next brief step we can take is to check if all these colors and these shapes and these thoughts and these sensations are affecting me. So if me is like this stainless, deep space black mirror without any flaws on it. Just this empty, stainless field of me. Like the purest space. And everything we sense and hear and feel and think about are mirages. They are like pictures on the screen, projected with the light of consciousness, aka the mind. But then see if any of these forms and shapes and colors and sensations, do any of the pictures affect this stainless mirror of deep space, which is I. So actually see, does this color that I am aware of affect the I? Does even my most intimate sensation of having a body, this kind of annoying and kind of reassuring sensation that's always with me, of this physical blob in my awareness, just hanging around wherever I go with my mind, is this consistent blob of the physical body sensation? First of all, is it me? Or am I aware of it? And then when you see that you are aware of it, it is not aware of you. You are aware of it like a picture, except this picture includes sensations. But it's still a picture. It's a picture of sensations. The body is just an image of sensation. It's an imagining. It's an imagineering of sensation. Doesn't make it any more real. It's still a picture. It's still as fake as the colors and the shapes. But when it has sensation to it, we often call it real or more real. Like, okay, I'm not my thoughts, but I am this feeling or this emotion. But just remember that emotions and feelings are just pictures of emotions and feelings. They're just pictures that look like they feel. So then, does this picture of your sensation of the body, this blob, this Teletubby that's with you wherever your mind goes, does it affect I? Does it affect me? Does it affect this stainless, deep space mirror surface of I? That which is always hiding in plain sight just before your experience arises. Just behind your head. Not really, but that's how it metaphysically occurs to a lot of seekers. That it's right behind your head. It's that background of me, which is doing the looking and the knowing, and is itself formless and unaffected and shapeless. So we rest in this I, in the acknowledgement of this I, in the conviction of this I being stainless and unaffected. And we rest in the conviction that we see all things as appearances, not as realities. Even the most real and dense feeling object is a picture. It's an appearance. It's an appearance of something really, 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 really real. It's a picture of something that looks really, 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 really real. But it's still just a picture. If you don't get lost in the realness projected onto this photo, this imagination, then you can see it as imagination. Even the densest of bodily sensations, even the heaviest of emotional, energetic sensations, even the most intense of attachments. If you see it as an appearance, it already decharges the situation. It already decharges the delusion. It neutralizes it. It gives you a fairer chance of realizing your freedom in the midst of the appearance, your stainlessness, your deep space mirror-like surface that cannot be affected, in the midst of the appearance of the sensation, the appearance of the reality, the appearance of the attachment, the appearance of the intensity. You see, you got to give yourself a chance. If you keep believing it's really, really real because it has a sensation associated with it, because it feels so intense, then you don't give yourself a fair chance to wake up, to find freedom in the midst of this appearance. But if you remember that it is just an appearance, and it will arise, and it will dissolve, and it will arise, and it will dissolve without leaving any stain or any trace on this deep space, stainless, shapeless surface of I, the witness, without form, the real beingness that does not come and go, that does not ever appear, but to which or to whom all perception is known as an appearance by means of appearing and disappearing. So the worst thing you're dealing with right now is a picture of a terrible thing. But it's still a picture. It's not a terrible thing. It's a picture of a terrible thing. You see, it's an appearance of hardship. It's not actual hardship. It's a photo of hardship. This helps you neutralize the charge, the belief that you've invested in this as being real. The moment you believe in something being real outside of your awareness, you are bound and you are dooming yourself to misery. But if you can just let it be as it is, which is an essentially neutral appearance within I, within deep space, within you, then your relationship to the appearance shifts from reality to perception, from real and solid and independently existent to a sort of self-appearance like a dream or a mirage. Now, the mirage then still contains the intensity, but the charge and meaning given to that intensity which kept you bound to your delusions about it, your descriptions about it, your stories about it, then dissolves. Then you give yourself a fair chance to peer into the stainless freedom and regain that smile that comes from the heart of the cosmos and not from any cause within the realm of appearances. It's a stainless, causeless smile that knows nothing but truth, at least for that moment, that knows nothing but devotion and love, at least for that moment, that knows nothing but freedom for simple, causeless truth. Take a deep breath into your heart again. Clench yourself as you exhale, relax, trust, and smile. Thank you. I will begin with answering some of the questions you guys upvoted. Thank you for your participation. The most upvoted question: if the darkness we see arising in the collective is really our projection, do we heal it simply by witnessing it and knowing it as a part of our wholeness? What a beautiful question. If the darkness we see arising in the collective is really our projection, do we heal it then simply by witnessing it and knowing it as part of our wholeness? Well, short answer is yes. Really, the question contains the answer. I don't have much to add. Let me see if there's any nuance. If the darkness we see arising in the collective is really our projection, do we heal it simply by witnessing it and knowing it as part of our wholeness? Yes, my only nuance perhaps would be that this does not work as an idle thought. It only works if it is applied as a deep experiential feeling state, if you will. So if we think about the darkness that somehow we have projected onto this canvas, onto this stainless field, and if we do not like this projection so much, if it feels unnatural, if it feels dark, as you said, then if we simply witness it, and witnessing to me implies we let it be as it is, we let it breathe as it is, not the way that we call it, that's not as it is, not the way that we describe it, that's not as it is, that's as we say it is, not the way that we've slanted it or biased it or given it meaning, that's not as it is. So we let it be as it is, on its own 2 feet, so to speak. We don't add any meaning. That's what it means to witness. Because if we're witnessing, but we're still defining, we're still describing, we're still charging it with our personal ideas, then we're not actually letting it be. We're not actually witnessing it. We are engaging in a personalized streaming of the mind's energy, which further creates what we see. So by truly witnessing it, that also means to detach from what we believe it to be, what we believe it to mean, including the concept or label of darkness. So if we wish to heal the darkness, and we wish to see it and reintegrate it and dissolve it as being part of our wholeness, as you beautifully said, then we must witness it with heart. We must witness it with courage. We must witness it with stability. We must witness it with the willingness to face it as it is, so let it be as it is, and to leave our ego at the door of our witnessing, to leave our projections at the door, and to actually just grok it as it is, to let it be as it is, and then even the label darkness will disappear. And you will see that what you've been calling darkness is quite literally and paradoxically made of light. It is because of the light that you can see what you've been calling the darkness. So darkness is actually still illuminated by a non-dual kind of light, a light that's not the opposite of dark. It's not a plus and a minus. It's beyond polarity. It's beyond duality. There's a metaphysical light that's at the source, at the heart of every perception, at the heart of every sensation also. Remember, everything is a picture of a possibility of infinite existence. So a particular picture might look and feel a certain way. Again, a picture can be also a picture of a feeling. So each moment may contain a feeling that feels or gets labeled as dark. But if you look at the facts, if you look at the nature of that image as it is, you will see that it is illumined by a deeper light that blinks neither at the dark or the light, neither at the plus or the minus, neither at the positive or the negative. It is the illuminating factor that's equally present throughout all perception. And this is the light that naturally emanates from the stainless, deep space, mirror-like surface of I that I talked about earlier. The real me, which is formless and shapeless, has sort of an emanation to it. This emanation is a non-dual type of light that enables the pictures of creation, that enables the dream, the perception. So what enables you to know the darkness, to know the horror, to know the abuse, to know the whatever it is that you call darkness? If you look at it objectively, if you let it be as it is for a few seconds, leave all meaning at the door, you let it be as it is, what do you notice about the nature of that supposed darkness? Is it not vivid? Is your darkness not shining. There's this beautiful song essentially about this by Alexander, and it's called Truth. Look it up. It's a bit hard to follow the lyrics, but you can look up the lyrics. It's quite a poetic symbolization of how the darkness is the light, how there's only oneness, really. So it's like that. When you stop labeling things, whatever you label them to be, you stop separating them from the field, and now a clarity arises that is intuitive, that is instinctive, that is natural, that's inherent, intrinsic. And this intelligence will revive your vision. It will allow you to see things the way they truly are, with the unbiased, God-loving eye. And so you will see darkness as light. Now, this does not mean, which is what a lot of people fear, that then we will indulge the darkness, or we will somehow become dark ourselves, or that our moral compass will somehow fail us, because if darkness is suddenly seen as light, then who's going to decide what is proper and what is not, what is positive and what's negative? But you have to have no fear of this whatsoever, because the more intelligent and the more whole you become, like the questioner stated, to knowing it as part of our wholeness while we're witnessing it exactly. When that intelligence arises for us, we become paradoxical, even to ourselves, but we become naturally imbued with an intelligence that will know things and that will act in certain ways, that is based on that wholeness, the intelligence of wholeness, not on a partial, ego-based definition. It's genuine, in-the-moment intelligence that's part of the wholeness. So you don't have to worry about your moral compass or your ethics. They will not go down the drain. They will be absorbed into a higher reality, a higher functioning that is naturally, intrinsically connected with all that is. So something else begins to occupy your actions, your moral compass, your guidance, and so on. You don't have to worry about this. You will notice this happens. You will notice every time that you dissolve darkness back into the light, that you stop seeing darkness as darkness and you see it and understand it as part of the wholeness. And you rise above the polarities and the dualities into that non-dual stainless field of source light. You will notice something shifts. Yes, your mind's label of black and white, right and wrong dissolves. But suddenly you feel emancipated, meaning you feel mature. There's something in you that now feels transcendental to your prior paradigm of right and wrong and the tension with which you held on to right and with which you wanted to reject wrong. And now in that wholeness, the beingness of wholeness, something else occupies you and you know it. It's occupying you. And the more you let that happen and the less you claim credit for it, the more purely it can flow and reinform the way you see things. And then you start to see, and I emphasize start or begin to see as God sees. You will be reinformed from the inside out. And this is only the beginning. But it's cool to notice that shift when it happens. When you surrender your personal ideologies about right and wrong, black and white, light and dark, and you just witness it as it is, you let it be part of the wholeness, something reinforms you. First of all, you feel happier, you feel freer of the labels, of the partiality, of the separation. And this wholeness gives you a sense of bliss and joy and peace. And then somehow you notice yourself without this strong moral compass of right and wrong, just naturally generous. You feel more naturally generous and giving and free and compassionate than you ever have before when you had those labels of right and wrong, or when you were perhaps the perfect Buddhist. Suddenly, having transcended being the perfect Buddhist, or having transcended this principle of compassion as a thought, as an ideology, being free of that need to be compassionate, suddenly you feel more compassionate than you ever have before, even if you were a textbook Buddhist compassionate practitioner before. So there's a natural intelligence that comes from the light that transcends dark and light. Yes, simply witnessing it and knowing it as part of your wholeness will contribute to the healing of it collectively as well. I'm recovering from a little flu, so if I feel a little slower and a little nasally, that's the cause for that. Can you talk about vibrational control instead of situational control? Regarding the non-possessive life, I see it as let God do all, and we just choose our vibration. Is this correct? Well, you guys keep answering your own questions. This is great. So in short, the answer is yes. Can you talk about vibrational control instead of situational control? Regarding the non-possessive life, I see it as let God do all, and we just choose our vibration. Is this correct? Yes. And I feel like I've answered this before, but maybe not. Anyway, here we are, fresh moment. The nuance I would add to this is that when you let God do all, that includes your vibrational upgrade. Ultimately, right? So if we truly let God do all, if that's the sort of declaration we make to ourselves, like our mantra, it's our focal point in each moment, for a while, like as an exercise, for instance. If you start practicing for a day to see reality as God doing everything, God's breathing me, God's walking my body, God's thinking my thoughts, whether they're random and scattered and conditioned or clear and inspired, doesn't matter. All of it is somehow made of God. It's by the power of Source alone that anything is appearing, that anything is happening, that anything is flowing. Let's say you do that. You give everything back to God in that sense. And you live, therefore, the non-possessive life. The idea that we then choose our vibration kind of begins to lose its meaning, you see, because choosing your vibration is, in a sense, still an act of doership. Nothing wrong with this, obviously. It's much higher than situational control. And it's great to practice vibrational control, to raise your frequency with your own will. But if you truly are in a moment where you surrender everything to God, you will find that God will uplift your frequency, if you will, and there's no need to control your vibration. It just rises. It just rises. It just rises. You see? So that's the nuance to this question and answer, because it's also your own answer, that I would want to add to that. So let God do all, and then including your own vibration. No, and if it doesn't rise for whatever reason, it's a good indicator that you haven't given up something yet to God, or you haven't reframed some aspect in your life as being God-made, God-driven, God-sourced, God-governed, God-guided, God-made. So then you just find that aspect in your consciousness or in your subconscious mind. You ask yourself, where am I still holding on to managing something? Maybe out of a fear that God will not take care of this for me, or this particular aspect is up to me as a separate entity, and I have to keep myself separate from the stream of God in order to make sure that this need or want or desire gets fulfilled by me, right? So if you give everything up to God, but your vibration doesn't elevate to a really beautiful, high kingdom of heaven type of a place, then some aspect of you is still projecting mistrust onto God and separation. So then that's a good opportunity for you to see where you are attached to your own management, to your own separate management of your own self-organized life, you know, the independent man or woman syndrome that's so popular these days. That's absolutely retarded, by the way. So this will not serve you on your journey to God. This is something that needs to be transcended. It just has to be transcended at some point because it does not give you joy. It does not give you alignment. It gives you the opposite of that. It gives you stress. It gives you anxiety. It gives you separation. It gives you trust issues. It gives you masculine and femininity issues. It gives you gender confusion. All these things are the product of independent woman or man syndrome. So it's a real disease in our collective at this moment. And we got to scout for where we have this vibration, which is essentially the Antichrist thought. It's a thought against oneness. It's a belief, it's an insistence of the personal conditioned mind based on being so afraid of pictures which contain sensations which appear like lack, that we somehow have thrown God out of the window and we've preferred a self-managerial position, self-appointed by us, to take care of everything in our lives, to make sure that this happens and that doesn't happen, and it's no way to live. And then to empower ourselves by that idea. It's very sick. Don't be sick. So vibrational control, what if you give even that up to God and watch as it elevates? And again, if it reaches the ceiling and you're like, this is not the most at home that I've ever felt. This is not the most at home that I could ever feel. There's a little snag, there's a little fiber sticking out that doesn't allow the thread to go through the eye of the needle. There's just this tiny little fiber sticking out, boink, boink, boink. And it's bending the thread as I want to just slide it through the eye of the needle. Find that fiber and burn it with love. But destroy it, utterly destroy that fiber sticking out. Do not tolerate it. If you need to cut off that limb, cut off that limb. Ideally, you integrate it, you harmonize it, you go like this and you blend it back with the rest of the thread. But if it still sticks out, cut it off, burn it off, and just take your thread through the eye of the needle. Become smooth. And then you will see when you truly give up everything to God, you truly trust again, there is a oneness that arises, a sense of oneness. It's intuitive. It's innate intelligence. And you will feel more at home than you've ever felt at home. And you can feel literally this elevation of your vibration, of your state of consciousness, of your emotional state also, your mental state. Everything is just like your hot air balloon is just piercing through the cloud layer that you didn't even know was there. You thought you were in the sun, you were basking, you were tanning. Then you realize as you penetrate the clouds that you hadn't felt the light in ages. That's what it feels like. It's an elevation into the light, into the wholeness. So as long as you don't feel that, you're still holding on to some kind of an issue of control. You're still in situational control. Does reaching the absolute fix all of your problems? Or do you still need to do all the emotional, causal, body work after? Great question. Yes and no. The analogy for this would be, imagine that you have been wearing a headset with a virtual reality game on for your entire life, and you've forgotten that you're wearing this headset. Reaching the absolute, for lack of a better word, or realizing or penetrating the absolute, for lack of a better word, is like taking off the entire headset, all the pictures, including the sensations, the past life sensations, the future life sensations, the parallel life sensations, anything. And it's because every sensation is contained as a picture projected in this virtual reality headset. Again, you have pictures of sensations. You've never actually had a sensation. It's just an illusion. That's why you don't have to fear sensations. It's ridiculous to fear sensations. Because you don't fear a picture of a sensation, do you? So why do you fear sensations? Because it's just a picture of a sensation. Rest in awareness. Let awareness outshine. Let this freedom, this stainlessness outshine all the sensations, so you can be unguarded to the presence of light that is wanting to shine through your face right now. All the time. It's like pressure on a dam. It's infinite, it's constant, it's continuous. This body of water wants to breach the dam. This is the case all the time. This light of God wants to penetrate through your face, through your every pore. It wants to shine through you. You're holding it at bay. You're damming it up. So, and one of the main reasons you dam it up is because you fear the illusion of sensation. You project that you're weak, that you're vulnerable. Now, nothing wrong with being open and honest about how you feel, but in truth, you cannot be vulnerable. You can feel vulnerable. You can create a picture of a feeling of vulnerability. You can label yourself vulnerable, But this deep space, stainless mirror-like surface that cannot be affected of I or I am or me is anything but vulnerable. It is inconquerable. It's immutable. It is untouchable. It is stainless. Nothing has ever left a trace in awareness. You can check this for yourself and it will verify, it will check out every time. So then why do we fear sensations so much? We don't fear pictures as much. We fear sensations, pictures of sensation. Why? What is so horrible about a negative feeling? What is so threatening about it that you should dam up the light that wants to burst through, that you should block non-duality from taking over your sensations and your life and your actions and your motivation? Why keep honor at bay because you are self-managing your sensation? So anyway, that's a side note, but it's a potent one. Does reaching the absolute fix all your problems? Well, yes, absolutely. Do you then still need to do all the emotional causal body work if you want to? And this is like, okay, you take off the headset, and imagine what would happen if you were able to take off this headset that you've been carrying for thousands of lifetimes. Okay, it's a very convincing video game. And all you know is this ongoing cosmic video game of you in this way, and you in that way, and you in this shape, and you in that form, and you in this civilization, and you with this theme of exploration, and you with that calling, and with incarnating at that particular point in an incarnational cycle of a particular planet, and what have you. If that video game is all you've known for tens of millions of years, for instance, you don't know what reality is. You think reality is this or that planet, or this or that civilization, or this or that memory, or this or that feeling. But imagine taking off the entire headset. And there's a nice analogy. There's a show out on Netflix right now called The Three-Body Problem. That's quite interesting. But they have this sort of metallic-looking headset, seemingly with no other wires or technology attached to it. But when you put it on, it takes over all the senses. So it projects an entire tangible, tactile, imaginative world that is indistinguishable from reality. So that's a good analogy for what you're wearing right now. So consciousness, specifically the individuated consciousness, is like the headset that you're wearing over your absolute nature. Now what happens when you reach the absolute, for lack of a better word, it's synonymous with taking off the headset and opening your eyes and seeing reality as it actually is. Free of experiences, because reality is not an experience. Anything that is an experience is part of the video game projection, you see. So you have no reference. If all you're used to is experiences, then you have no reference for what it's like to not experience and still be alive and still be awake and still be in reality, still exist. What is it like to exist without experience? Can you even imagine this? Not if you're using imagination based in experience, which is almost inevitable, isn't it? So this is very difficult to describe. You see, the nature of actual reality outside of the entire headset of this cosmic game, it's impossible to describe to someone inside the video game. But in that instant, when you take it off, the overwhelming realization is that nothing ever happened. And if nothing ever happened, that means all your problems are solved as well, because they never existed. And this is not the same as a bypassing. You see, I'm perfectly present to you. I don't care what I'm feeling right now. I'd be happy to look at every nuance of my sensations with you guys, whether it's from this life or the next life or your life. I don't care what I feel. I don't care what it indicates. There's no bypassing here. There's no need to avoid or escape into anything. And yet I can experience without experiencing, or Rather, I can be without experiencing experiences. And yes, this solves all your problems, or rather it dissolves all your problems. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot put the headset on, and then within the video game, you can still do your thing. So, as the questioner asked, does reaching the absolute fix all your problems, or do you still need to do all the emotional causal body work after that? You don't need to do it after that. If you fixate only on the absolute, for lack of a better word, genuinely, not as a concept, but like I just demonstrated, if you are able to take off the headset and rest in absolute experienceless perfection, and the infinite one, source of all that is, or all that appears to be, there are no problems. So then, in a sense, it's optional to do the emotional causal body work. However, you are out of integrity, in my view, if you re-enter the video game and you claim you have no problems or no distortions, and you refuse to do the emotional causal work, but you do take a stance in the illusion as a person with a claim of having no problems. And for whatever reason you're doing that, if it's enjoyment, if it's pleasure, if it's power, if it's money, if it's to fulfill some kind of a lack idea, if it's relationship, whatever your reason might be to re-enter the world, so to speak, if you do re-enter the world, your integrity does depend on your honesty. And so then you shouldn't use the absolute as a yardstick or as a sort of a stick to beat your problems over the head with, like, oh, this is not real, this is not real, this is not real. If you truly stay with it's not real, if that is your choice, then it does fix all your problems. And there is no actual need to do emotional causal body work. But again, that's a very rare choice for people to make. So it's both, you see? Yeah, it does dissolve all your problems. And then, okay, so here's sort of the balanced way, or the benefit that you get out of this. When you do genuinely penetrate into the absolute, but there is an aspect of you that continues in the game, that continues in the progression, the relative. Imagine, in a sense, how much easier it is to then do the causal, emotional, mental work, right? Because you have seen beyond the video game. So your sense of your absolute reality has shifted, of your absolute identity has shifted, because you've genuinely seen absolute truth. So now, putting the headset back on, for whatever reason, that's highly individuated, why somebody would continue to engage with the reality of perception. So that's entirely up to you. But when you do that, imagine now putting the video game back on, but you've seen what it's like to be without the video game. But imagine you're putting that headset back on, knowing that it's not real. Now, how do your emotions and your relationships and your problems appear to you? And if you really contemplate this deeply, you can get an actual sense of it. You can extract some of that freedom even without penetrating absolute reality. But just by imagining that you have realized that this is a video game, that this is an intricate, highly intelligent projection, lacking any and all substance. There's no reality to it, but it appears as if it does. Imagine you've really realized that, and your identity has sort of escaped the balloon of your personal bubble and become one with the space that's at the source of all that is. Now, put your life back on, so to speak. How does that change your relationship to your desires, to your motivations, to your ambitions, to your feelings, to your relationships, to your relationship to your own emotions and feelings? Can you imagine, can you get a sense of how it just opens that up? Like you stop damming this river of causeless joy, bliss, oneness, connectedness, interconnectedness, compassion, generosity, honesty, transparency, honor, duty, showing up, being present, all that. You stop damning that because you become less and less afraid of feelings. You understand it's just a picture of a feeling. It's an imagination. It's a dream about a feeling. A feeling is not something real, doesn't have any substance. So there's an openness there, there's a freedom there, there's a conviction in that stainlessness that now helps you deal with the emotions and the thoughts and the causal work and all that. So it greatly accelerates it. It makes you purer, more honest, more transparent, more honorable, more in integrity with oneness or God, naturally. So that's how most of you would experience it, I project, or I expect, if you do actually penetrate absolute reality. It becomes more a play than anything else. The sense of it being real changes. All right, I'll answer one or two more questions from here, and then I'll light my cigar and let you guys do some of the talking. How can I serve an extremely confused, naive, and stubborn community without losing motivation? I love this question. How can I serve an extremely confused, naive, and stubborn community without losing motivation? So I interpret this as it could be your family, it could be, a circle of friends, it could be a Facebook group you're a part of, it could be a philosophy or religious kind of group. How can you serve an extremely confused, naive, and stubborn community without losing motivation? Well, first of all, I would consider, are you in the right place or are you just fighting upstream? If somebody doesn't want it, they don't want it, right? So the reason they appear really stubborn to you, naive, and extremely confused, it's probably because they're on a very different wavelength to yourself. They may not share the same interest at this point. They may not have an interest in, the awakening or whatever you're sort of trying to convey to them. But if for some reason you felt genuinely inspired to serve that particular community, and you feel that they're genuinely calling for it or asking for it, and they're even maybe verbalizing that. Like, again, if not, then I would just sort of get out of there and, live and let live. But let's say that you are in some kind of a beautiful service to others bond with them, and they still appear extremely confused, naive, and stubborn. How can I serve without losing motivation? And you could basically replace the word community with the world, right? Because from most of our perspectives here, I think we would see the world, the collective of humanity, as being extremely confused, naive, and stubborn. So we can all just apply it to that. Like, how do we continue to serve in general? How do we continue to serve anyone that's not sort of part of a community like this already? Which changes the game, it makes it easier. Still very stubborn people also in communities like this, very naive and confused as well. But to a different extent, right? And usually within a different context and a support group of community and so on. So, but how do we continue to serve the world without losing motivation? That's a great question. That's a beautiful question. Because it implies you want to continue to serve with motivation, regardless of circumstances and regardless of how people respond to you. And I think that's gorgeous. So I commend you for that. Which brings me to one way to consider this, is consider that you're actually doing this to purify your alignment to God. Yes, the intention appears to be of service to others. And yes, that should be sort of the driving engine, ideally. But what you're actually doing in your act of perseverance, in your act of service to others, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how they respond. What you're actually doing more directly than helping them is you're purifying your own channel to God, to source, to true intelligence, to true empowerment, to ascension. So you're working on your own ascension, for lack of a better word, your own progression, your own awakening, by persevering, by continuing to commit to something that you know is in integrity with being of service to the whole, aka the oneness, aka your true essence. So just remember, this is one way to maintain motivation. Remember that when you're suffering and struggling in response to an extremely confused, naive, and stubborn response to your service, what you're doing is you're purifying yourself. You're really cleansing yourself of personal gain. And you're beginning to know what it means to give your life to a cause, to give your life to God, which is just another way of saying you're giving up whatever you think you want, your own agendas, and you're burning it up in the fire of catalyst, in the fire of the challenge, the opposition, the stubbornness, the non-reciprocity, the non-circuitry with the community that you're feeling called to serve. And by that response, and Jesus is a good example of this, the response by those he was trying to serve is to put a nail through his appendages and let him hang on a wooden block in the sun. So that's not, that's not the nicest response that you can give to someone who tries to serve you. It's not necessarily a nice kind of a circuitry. But he persevered. He could have avoided it in some way, shape, or form. He chose not to. He chose to persevere. So that's literally giving his life to the Father, or to the oneness in all beings. So to remind yourself that this is an exercise in purification, and that every act of purification, that every act of genuine goodwill towards oneness, towards the source, towards God, towards another person, by seeing them as the Creator, and offering your service to the Creator in the form of that person or community, regardless of the smacking around that you're getting, just remember you're actively purifying yourself. It's like a blacksmith just heating up that sword by hammering on it and sharpening it. There's friction there, there's pressure there involved, there's heat, but it is turning this into a beautiful, functional sword or blade. So if you just remember that it's an exercise for you to be of service to others, then that can continue your motivation, help you stay motivated. What could a romantic relationship look like without agreement? Doesn't it make the concept of having a family irrelevant? As there is no commitment anymore. Well, this is there's a big misunderstanding here, misassumption. In the last sentence, doesn't it make the concept of having a family irrelevant as there is no commitment anymore? The biggest mistake in this question, and it's a great question, thank you, don't get me wrong, but to dissect it here for the purpose of learning, a relationship without agreement does not equal no commitment. In fact, the opposite is true. When you're in a relationship that has an agreement, you lack commitment. Okay? And I'll explain this. What is an agreement? And who is it for? You selfish cunt. What is an agreement for? For whom? Really think about this. I know people have difficulty with this, and we've been raised to believe in relationships as being this thing with agreements. And then when it lacks agreements, or when it's an evolved version of a relationship, suddenly, we project all kinds of perversities onto that. Like, oh, it's just the free love Osho thing, like fuck whoever you want, or the it's all about the self because the self doesn't want to be tied down and they're scared of commitment. Now, obviously, it could be any of these things. Depends on the individual. But universally speaking, or objectively speaking, not having an agreement does not equate to no commitment. In other words, you can be completely committed to the well-being of another without any agreement about a relationship. And I would say that in most cases, if the relationship is heavily based on agreement, by definition, it is selfish in nature, it's mutual abuse. A relationship based in agreements is a mutual contract of mutual abuse. Literally, like this is not an exaggeration. You and I are agreeing to mutually abuse each other. That is a relationship, that is love, that's loyalty, that's commitment in the eyes of many people. So I'm saying, if you have a relationship that's so heavily based in agreements, it's actually all about you, isn't it? It's got nothing to do with the relationship. It's got nothing to do with the benefit of the other person. It's got nothing to do with freedom and nourishment and empowerment. It's two fear-based entities, self-centered fear-based entities, because a fear-based entity must by definition be self-centered. This is why fear is a sin. It's not okay to be scared. It's not okay to be scared. That should not be your end station. It's okay for fears to arise. That's different. But it's not cool to be scared. You see, if you're scared when your fears arise, then there's something off with your connection to the Creator, which is okay, but you don't want to get stuck there. You don't want to stop there out of weakness. You want to empower yourself. You want to find the courage to understand that to remain scared is a sin of sorts that makes you self-centered. So in this tolerance that we have for remaining self-centered, scared entities, the way that we've normalized being afraid is really ridiculous. The way we have normalized and okayified being scared and therefore self-centered, collectively at mass scale, all pervasively so, is quite ridiculous. So the first step is to see being scared as a sin. It's a mistake. It's a mistaken, erroneous perception. That's all a sin is. Sin is a mistaken perception or idea of what is beneficial versus what is not beneficial. Now, if you are a self-centered, scared entity, and you go and engage with some other being in this joyous dance of free creation, and the first thing you think about is how to pin them down to a series of agreements, then you have to understand you're not committed to them at all. You're committed to harboring your fear and staying afraid and staying small and staying in misperception, aka remaining a sinful being. How is that commitment? I mean, it's some form of commitment, but what is it a commitment to? Who is the agreement for? Is it out of love? Honestly, I think most people love a stranger on the street they've never met before more than they love their spouse, usually. And this is not an exaggeration. This is not an exaggeration. You have to understand my definition of love. So according to my definition of love, I think most people out there love a stranger on the street they only meet once more than they love their spouse. According to my definition of love. Now, they might be more infatuated with their partner. They might have attached more of their pain points and insecurities and fears onto their partner. They may have a ton of agreements with their partner and none with the stranger. But their love for the stranger is purer than their love for their spouse. So, without agreement, there can be true love. And in my experience, without agreement, there's way more commitment, naturally. There's an actual commitment to the well-being of the being that you're involved with. Doesn't it make the concept of having a family irrelevant, as there is no commitment anymore? So we have deconstructed that already, that there is commitment. Now, again, think about it. Why do you need an agreement to be committed to someone? Isn't that selfish as fuck? Why are you not committed to someone? Why do you need an agreement before you will pour your love and commitment into their well-being? Give me one selfless reason why you need an agreement before you give. That's essentially what we're talking about. Before I love you, I need an agreement. Before I commit to your well-being, before I give to you, before I want the best for you, before I want you to be happy, I need an agreement. And that's what we call a relationship. Why? Now, you can have a family without any agreements. Say, what? Yeah, it just looks the way it looks based on how it looks. You don't need to control the way it looks to have a relationship, to have a family. You can just let it be as it wants to be, without control. The only thing you should be paying attention to and being anal about is how pure your love is. How pure is your commitment to the well-being of these beings, without agreement. So does it make the concept of having a family irrelevant? Yes, the concept. But it doesn't mean you cannot have the experience of having a family. You know? You can still fuck, produce a baby, and have a great time together. And be absolutely committed to the well-being of the child, the well-being of the partner, the well-being of yourself. It needs no concept. It needs no agreement. It doesn't even need a desire or a hope or a dream, which often is the pre-agreement before you get to the condition or the person that you think you want. So if you have hopes and dreams for relationships or family, you're already retarding your family ahead of time before ever meeting your partner, perhaps, or before ever meeting your baby. You are already distorting and abusing that future relationship. You stepped out of God. You begin to self-manage, self-dream, self-hope, self-create, self-organize. And so you're not available for perhaps the actual partner or the actual family that wants to come to you. And you could even get stuck in a marriage that's not actually what wanted to come through for you. Commitment is natural to one who doesn't make life about themselves, one who doesn't doubt God. And then in the total annihilated absence of a concept of having a family or a relationship, whatever arises for you will be perfect. Whatever is attracted to you will be perfect, and you will be purely available to it, based in a relationship to oneness. You will not make it about you, your doubts, your lack beliefs, your need for agreements. And it will be gorgeous. And I can't wait to meet your family. If this is the type of family you're courageous enough to allow to arise, that would be a beautiful family where there's complete trust in the commitment that's naturally there, the love that's actually there, and it looks whatever it looks like. It appears whenever it appears, and it's not retarded by hopes and dreams. These belong to Walt Disney. Give them back to Walt Disney. be real, live in God, breathe God, be God, act according to God, on behalf of God, destroy all concepts. And whatever arises will be exactly what you desire.
Massaro University is a vibrant online community dedicated to accelerating your awakening and activating your purpose for the benefit of all. Join live sessions with Bentinho and workshops led by experienced facilitators. Deepen your wisdom, empowerment, and self-knowledge, and experience life-changing shifts week after week. At Massaro University, finding like-hearted seekers is easy and inevitable. Lifelong friendships and a shared purpose fuel profound personal and collective growth. Create your free account today at massaro.university and step into a community that's designed to elevate every aspect of your life.
Hello, Scott.
Oh,
Hey.
hey, what's up, man? Thanks for everything. Love you.
You're welcome.
So when I I meditated like a lot the other day, and like I was very heightened, but when that happens, all my thoughts were very amplified too, and they kind of freaked me out because I have a very bad thought process. It just revolves around fear thoughts. What do I
Yeah.
how can I meditate without having those thoughts, or at least how can I recognize that they don't have any energy or any force on what's happening, like any force to onto the illusion?
Mm-hmm. In general, what I would recommend is to balance intensity with, what should I call it?
Relax.
To balance intensity. Are you saying something?
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Oh.
relaxation.
My thought, my train of thought isn't complete yet. So one second.
Okay, yeah, okay, sorry.
To balance intensity with softness, soothing, or another word would be balance, actually. To balance intensity with balance. So what I mean by this is, if you have those types of thoughts that are of a negative nature or a sort of a self, hurting nature, if you raise the intensity, like if you go and meditate all day long and like focus and focus and focus and focus, then you may reach a threshold where that intensity kind of becomes erratic because you're
Yeah,
putting so much energy into your system that whatever is there that needs a bit more time to relax, to release, to balance out, to soothe itself into wholeness, maybe you're pushing it too hard, too fast. So you want to balance intensity, like bouts of intensity, with sort of a, okay, I'm just gonna chill today. For the rest of the day, I'm just gonna chill. I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna distract myself a little bit. I've been intense. I've been focused. I've seen with greater clarity, but I'm feeling that this heat is still getting channeled into my thought forms. And they're kind of driving me crazy and they're kind of scary right now. So I'm just going to sort of lower the heat a little bit. I'm going to lower the intensity. I'm going to lower the focus. And I'm not going to forget what I am. I'm not going to forget that I'm on this journey. But I'm going to give myself some time to smoothen out these edges, to just sort of let them be integrated on their own. So you want to balance intensity or focus with sort of a softness, a mellowness, and a balance. Does that make sense?
yeah. I don't know. Okay. I guess just the energy of a balance and soothness and stuff. The energy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like how would I do it?
Yes. And you can create patterns of thought that are much more relaxed, that are much more
Oh, great.
lighthearted, that have much more levity to it. So when you notice that this intensity of your will and your focus and your meditation, sometimes that will be great and it will be lovely and beautiful. But at other times, maybe your mind somehow takes some of that energy and increases the heat that it puts into the system, if you will, the fire, the intensity. And it exacerbates or it emphasizes the negative thought patterns that
Yeah.
you are already inclined towards. So at those moments, I would just lower the heat a little bit, like just turn down the stove, just relax. Like you don't have to attain complete enlightenment right now. Just, okay, there's always tomorrow. Normally, I wouldn't recommend that, but in those cases, I would recommend that you turn down the heat. So turn down the heat and then start thinking things that are just a little bit more lighthearted than what you're used to. That are a little bit more like, oh, this is fine. Like, what am I worried about? Or like,
Everything's okay.
things are actually going well. It's more the Abraham Hicks approach of like just softening the edges, softening the insistence and the belief, just letting it be okay. And that way you're kind of putting some balm or some fat, if you will, on your nervous system that will then protect you from the electric current of the intensity of your meditativeness and your focus. So if you picture meditativeness and focus and will and intensity as something that generates more current that was going through your system, if that current is dry and brittle, it's going to sort of freak out and flash out and escape over here and escape over there instead of go through the balanced channels. So if you notice that scatteredness, that anxiety, that sort of erraticness arising in response to your intensification of focus and will, again, just turn the heat down first, just to like, oh, okay. It's like water boiling over. It's like, oh, the first thing you do is you just turn down the heat or you take it off the stove. So just do that first, like, okay, let me relax my intensity. And then you tend to whatever you need to tend to. And to sort of moisten up your nervous system, to put that balm on that nervous system, to fortify that nervous system, you want to have thought forms, belief systems in place that are of the nature of self-loving, all is well, all is working out for me. I'm not this tiny little entity that deserves punishment all the time. I'm not a lack-based creature. The universe is abundant. Basically, what you want is a more positive belief system, a relaxed, balming, soothing, supportive, buffering conviction. And then when you turn the intensity back up, you will find that your nervous system is much better equipped to channel that current in the appropriate channels, if you will.
And to create a belief system, you just think thoughts over and over again. That's what a belief is, right? Thought over.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's essentially that simple.
How do you not be self-conscious when you're interacting with others?
By doing the opposite of whatever you do when you are self-conscious. So first,
Oh,
to
shit.
understand how to not be self-conscious, you first have to get a really clear feeling of how you activate self-consciousness. If you can see how you activate self-consciousness, then you can not do that. But if you don't know how you're doing that, then it's very difficult to not do it. So first of all, can you notice the moment self-consciousness activates? Like, what are you, quote unquote, doing energetically? And then if you can isolate that,
I
you can not do it.
I kind of like look back at myself and I think of myself as like a
There you go.
person body. Yeah. So
Don't do that.
and then once if you do that, if I do that and I think that, what do I do then? Do I release it? Do I let it go? And then,
You just don't do that.
uh-oh.
If you're really clear, if you've really identified the mechanism of how self-consciousness begins, if you can find the inception moment where you begin a particular thought, or where your consciousness goes in a certain direction or takes on a certain assumption, if you can identify that exact point, you can keep it at bay. You can stay where you're at. You can continue to dance in front of 100 people And if you maintain an awareness of the mechanism of how you activate self-consciousness, you can maintain an awareness of that and then not do it. So you can keep dancing and keep at bay this mechanism that you normally indulge in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's hard. That's going to be hard for me. It's very subtle.
It is very subtle. Yeah. It's not easy to sort of catch it and then keep it at a distance with awareness, but you can do it. So that's one way. The other way is more gradual, which would be essentially what we just said is that you change your thoughts. So whatever the thoughts are that make you feel, debilitatingly self-conscious, start with those and begin to soften these from very negative to slightly negative to mildly negative to neutral, and then slowly to positive, more positive, and so on. So you just soften your ideas. It's like, okay, I'm dancing and I'm self-conscious, or even just walking into a room and I'm self-conscious. But you know what? That's okay. It's not going to kill me. I know ultimately these sensations are just pictures of sensations. So you know what? I'm just going to be with this. I'm not going to try to be the most confident person in the room that is not self-conscious. I'm going to accept the fact that I have this self-consciousness tendency. I'm just going to witness it, and I'm going to soothe myself through it.
Okay.
That's a good way to sort of begin to soften, buffer your nervous system, and up-level your thinking patterns, the grooves of your mind, if you will, the way that you've been trained to think. This will overall raise your frequency. This will overall buffer you. And then you can apply greater intensity again in terms of focus and meditativeness. And then the energy of greater intensity will no longer feel like scattered or erratic or like uncontrolled or risky. It will all just follow the proper channels, and it will just be a balanced raising of your intensity and frequency and consciousness.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I'll move on to
Okay.
some other
Okay. Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
since this is the last session.
Okay. Thanks, brother. Love you.
Thank you. Britta?
Hi, Bentinho.
Hello.
Hello. I'm a little bit excited, so I hope I can get my question through. Several years ago, I had some kind of an experience where you can say like, okay, I look behind the wheel, or like when maybe the illusion kind of disappeared. It was not like this, what you often hear, like bliss and ecstasy and whatever. But it was really a beautiful experience that lasted, I think, around a week, where I also didn't sleep, and where I had some, I don't know, it really happened on very different layers. Like someone or something was guiding me through and pushing me out of my comfort zone, like one experience after the other, and taking action here and there. But it also got really crazy, that everyone around me thought I was getting crazy. So I'm still, yeah, it really got surreal because there were many aspects that really just were weird. Like my son, who at that time was 3 years old, he was kind of guiding me through. He actually, during that week, he was the only person that kind of felt stable to me. Like everyone else felt like telecommanded or something
Did you
else.
say he was 3 years old at the time?
Yes. And it
Oh,
really weird because um I'm sorry, it's really embarrassing to everything to tell that.
you're great. Thank you.
He used vocabulary or language that he at that time wasn't able to actually express. And it felt like he was explaining things to me, like how the world really functions or not. Like everything was kind of upside down. And I had many situations with people that felt like, telecommanded, like they were kind of not here, like they were physically here, but not at all. And then it got really crazy. And at one stage, a friend called me and she just said, "Hey, it's okay now. You're just in another dimension." And I was like, okay, because in the end, I was really like out of my mind because I didn't really know how to act. Also because my husband, he kind of was like a mirror to me. Every time I was too not authentic or maybe too aggressive or too loud, he kind of exaggeratedly started to cry, or the other way around, like when I was sad and I didn't know what to do, he kind of got really angry. It was like someone turned the volume up. I don't know how to explain that. And I don't really know what my question is, but it left me a little bit with this question mark. Okay, have I been crazy in that moment? Was it really that I was crazy, or can I trust that? Because it was also beautiful because I had all this guidance and yeah. And the second thing was I really felt alone because I felt like although I had this guidance, it felt like I was just everything was like false. I don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. This is part of the growing pains of awakening sometimes. It doesn't happen for everyone in that way, but it definitely happens for a good percentage of people, especially if they're quote unquote awakening or if they have a penetrative realization that is in contrast to where they're normally at. If it's quite a leap that you're having sort of an awakening week like that, which happens, just the contrast between that and your familiar reality, how you're used to operating energetically, emotionally, relationally, mentally, societally, the contrast is just so big that there's some integration issues. There's some difficulty, you're getting accustomed to a new state, but you still have plenty of thoughts that are running the show that you're used to. And so it's somewhat similar to what I was telling Scott about. If you have an increase in intensity, or in this case, like a purity of recognition, an awakening, let's call it that, then that increased intensity or purity of seeing is going to bring to the surface everything that's in contrast to it, everything that doesn't belong there. Is it going to, force it in your face? Is it going to make it tangible and real? It's going to affect your relationships and everything you've worked towards and all the things and hopes and dreams and everything you're familiar with. So this is a beautiful process, but it can be confusing. It can be disshuffling. I'm not going to lie. It can be disorienting. So you have to sort of know yourself, which is difficult to do when you've just had a profound awakening. But you have to know where you're at. And this is why community is so useful. If we build, an army of balanced, clear, at least quasi-awakened beings that can really, and with a few true pillars of enlightenment present there, like good teachers, facilitators, and so on, and shepherds, then we have such a profound and strong foundation for a change in society that embraces awakening, that can be the balm, that can be the buffer around these sort of more chaotic, erratic, entropic experiences, these more chaotic phases where you seem to be living two realities and it's confusing how to bridge them, how to combine them, what to let go of, what to maintain, what's in integrity, what's crazy, what's actually something that you should just trust. This is a bit of a maze because we're so entrenched in human consciousness with so many ideologies, so many taboos, so many rights and wrongs, so many delusions, that when we have a profound awakening compared to where we used to be, it's gonna cough up a bunch of chaos, a bunch of entropy. This can be beautiful. This can be harmonious. This can be a fast track into rearranging your life to be a clearer reflection of who you really are. But it does have a psychological impact. It does have a relational impact. And so without a community and without clear teachers and without a support structure, it's, 100 times more difficult and 100 times more prone to coming to erratic conclusions, making decisions based on confusion instead of clarity, and so on. So this is really where I want to emphasize the community aspect of Massaro University as being something you can begin to rely on. And if you really want to make these changes in your life, you really want to activate this awakening, that's, again, when the full community experience is, I would almost say, invaluable. And so anyway, rely on community when you can in those phases. Understand that it can be difficult. It can be confusing. Now, one teacher once told me, when you're going through a course like this, or when you're going through an awakening week like that, try not to make any radical decisions about your life. Don't start a new relationship. Don't end an existing relationship. Don't, move to a different area of the world. Don't end your career. Don't start a new job. Give yourself some time to let the clarity absorb the confusions, integrate them until you feel that there's a more balanced state and that you're familiar now with what it's like to be freer, what it's like to see with freer eyes. And once you're accustomed to that, you will know what is confusion and what is clarity. You will know what is fear-based or crazy or erratic versus what is just an expression of freedom. So give yourself some time and space when you're going through an awakening week like that is in stark contrast with your former state of reality. Give yourself some time. Don't make any radical decisions unless you're 100% clear. Sometimes if there's an urgency that is real and it's truly guided, you will know, okay, it's time to end this relationship, or it's time to move locations, but unless you're 100% clear, just don't make any radical life changes. First, get accustomed to the state of clarity, normalize it, and then you will know. You will know in time. So give some space for these things to integrate and for the entropy to find sort of a new clarity. I will pause here and see how this lands. See if you have more to share or ask.
Not really. I mean,
what's relevant for you right now in your life? Like, okay, so you shared this beautiful, challenge and experience, and you said that several years ago, right?
It was 7 years ago. Then I had it a second time, but it was kind of the lighter version of it. Maybe because I
Exactly.
already knew what it was.
Yes.
So
that's it,
so
you
it
see.
got
So you get
easier.
accustomed to it. You get accustomed to it.
Mm.
Things settle down, like they integrate, they harmonize. You start to see clearer. It's not so chaotic. So with every time that you deepen your awakening, your familiarity, your balance, your mastery will increase. So that's good. So where you're at now with this, do you need any support in a particular direction or challenge?
I sometimes feel like I'm like I keep my control too much, because I don't want to go there again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So in a sense, are you saying that you have developed a little bit of a fear for your freedom?
Yeah, maybe.
This is very common. I'm just verifying if that's your experience.
Yeah.
So this is very common. This is again the balance, like balancing that intensity, and in this case, the intensity of freedom, with all the elements in your life that you've created from a state of consciousness that's much more based in agreements and solid perspectives and ideas of right and wrong and your environment and your family and so on. So, I mean, take your time, but do know ultimately, okay, that at the end of the day, you want to trust your freedom. Now, it might come with some contrast. It might come with some challenge. You want to take your time with those challenges. You don't want to push yourself beyond what you're comfortable with integrating. However, it is more important at the end of the day, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree. You got to know yourself. But for most people, I would say at the end of the day, it's very important that you do trust that freedom, even if you've developed a little bit of a hesitation towards it, some trepidation, some fear, because of how it would shuffle around elements of your life and kind of cause some confusion and unclarity. Just know that, okay, that is part of the process. I'm going to give myself space and time to navigate those sort of confusions. I'm going to rely on my teacher, my community, the teachings, myself. But at the end of the day, I do not want to suppress or have a negative definition in my mind about freedom. I don't want to judge freedom as being crazy. Now, this is a fine line because some people do go a little crazy and then they identify that as freedom. Okay, so we don't want to go crazy and then say that is freedom. But we also don't want to go call freedom crazy. Again, this is why I'm saying community and consistency and environment is so important on this journey when the rubber meets the road and these changes start to happen. Because it's really hard, it's just difficult to see what's true and what's not true. And this is where the more classical guru-disciple relationship, if the guru is genuine, is invaluable. Now, and the next best thing for that, if you don't have personal contact with someone you can truly trust, that knows you better than you know yourself, that sees your path, and that is pure. If you don't have that direct connection, then the next closest thing you could have is something like a support structure or an environment like the university or a community like this, where you can rely on people who have been maybe through what you've been through, where you can ask a facilitator or a coach about this and explore with them at your own pace and so on. So this is the type where the rubber meets the road and where enlightenment begins to hit the structures of your human life. It starts to bump up against them. This is where teaching, teachers, and fellow seekers are invaluable. So there's not a clear-cut answer because this is a very individuated journey. There are generalities that apply to everyone, such as what I've described with the intensity and the stuff coming up. But then what specifically comes up for you and what specifically confuses you and what specifically is your craziness versus your freedom or your suppression of freedom because you don't want to be crazy. These kind of subtleties they need either support, help, teaching, and or they need time. They need honest self-assessment over an extended period of time, and they need some space and so on. So that's really the most direct answer I can give you. I can't just tell you, go for it, because I don't know. Maybe you have a propensity to go a little crazy. I don't think so. I feel that you can trust your freedom in this case. But then again, there's 200 other people listening. Maybe there's someone else here that does have the propensity to go crazy and identify that as freedom. So I can't say to everyone here, just always go for it and always trust your freedom, because the human mind is a maze. So unless you've attained a high level of balance and clarity and you have a good support structure around you, I can't comfortably say completely trust your freedom, because you'd need to know if you're actually talking about the real freedom, the real, like, God's presence coming into your life, which can seem a little crazy because it's not always conforming to the human conditions. So we gotta be aware, okay, yeah, it can look a little crazy. It doesn't mean it is. But then again, on the other hand, some people are a little bit crazy and they do have a propensity to be delusional and make it about them and turn it into a new personality. And so for them, they need a little bit more restriction. They need a little bit more balance. They need a little bit more time to balance these things out before they can truly distinguish what is freedom versus what is crazy. Now, freedom can, again, it can appear a little crazy. It can appear paradoxical, but perhaps just, if anything, use my image, use the sense that you've gotten from me during these sessions, and check yourself in accordance with that. I am silly, I am outspoken, I'm controversial, I'm paradoxical, I'm difficult to understand, I can appear crazy to a lot of people, but if you really tune into where I'm coming from, I think you'll get a sense of the stability behind that, and the clarity and the sanity that's here. I'm not going crazy for no reason. I'm not making this about me. I'm not turning into a dramatic eccentric that walks on stage naked and sings songs he shouldn't be singing because he can't sing that well. You know, like there's a sanity about me. There is a profound stability about me that I've accomplished through years of self-analysis and balance and genuine penetration into higher states of consciousness and an understanding of a holistic, unified view of spirituality, of consciousness, of the human condition, of cosmology, and so on. So if you can get a sense of my stability, even in my silliness, my craziness, my paradox, my controversy, then that can give you some symbol, some vibrational coordinate to check yourself in. And then if you notice, well, to be honest, my state of freedom feels more erratic. It feels more dramatic. It feels more blamey and shamey and this and that and like rebellious. Then maybe, maybe just calm down a little bit. Just relax a little bit. Find some support. Get book a one-on-one session with one of my facilitators or ask me a question in the Adepts tier. Give yourself some space and time. But if you feel that actually my freedom radiates with stability, it radiates with sanity, it radiates with clarity, it radiates with service to others and generosity and wanting the best for everyone, it generates natural commitment towards the well-being of others. I'm not just being in my own bubble, being crazy and like rebellious and showing off my freedom. There's a sanity, there's a universality about me. If you can feel that in yourself, then that's maybe a good marker that you can trust that freedom. If it feels sane, if it feels stable, if it feels impersonal, then you're on the right track.
Okay.
In your case specifically, I would wish to relieve you of your fear for your freedom. At this stage, I think you personally, you as an individual, are ready to at least remove that fear cap, that fear filter, that trepidation, and trust your freedom. I feel safe to say that to you.
Okay, thank you.
And it will serve you. You are a sane person, you are stable, you are caring, you're not a psychopath. At the end of the day, you will balance yourself out. You will find stability. You will be able to reason with other people. You'll be able to respect their worldview, even if it's no longer your worldview. And so I feel great trust in your ability to trust your freedom at this point and just let more of that in. Let a little bit more of that in. Don't fear the consequences. Trust that you'll be able to navigate it in a balanced fashion. And if you're unclear, then use the community or use me if you can.
Okay.
Sound good?
Much that means a lot for me. Yes,
Awesome.
definitely. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Britta. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is going to help a lot of people. I appreciate it. Colin? Colin? Colleen? Something like that? Miss Lively?
Hi, it's Colin. Thank you so much.
Colin? Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm an adept or an apprentice. I just somehow ended up here, and I just want to say thank you for your beautiful heart and for being you, and to everyone here. It's that's all. I just really wanted to say thank you.
So sweet. Mm. Beautiful. Love it. All right, Valerie? Or Valerie?
Yes. Do you
Hi,
hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Um, yeah. Where to start? I think I would like to start. The last time I talked to you, it was some years ago when I was still an analyst, and there was something that really stayed with me. What you told me that I couldn't understand at the time, but I think I understand it more now, better now. And it was you told me something that I was enjoying in a way my pain, like and first it was when you told me this, it was I couldn't see it, I couldn't understand it, and sometimes later I had like deep states of experiencing how I really do did or do build like a structure of pain, physical pain in my body, um, just to be able to maybe just live and um, um, yeah, and experiencing how I'm doing this to myself was even maybe a bigger shock than when you told me, and maybe because also I see it as um, like a yes, like a real um, and I don't know. It's just there is a lot of judgment on why I'm doing it, because I see that I'm doing it to protect myself, and also I'm waiting for this moment that I don't need it anymore, but I still feel that I need it, and I don't know how to um, what kind of attitude is good towards myself. Like, should I be strict with myself and discipline myself, and or should I be just also, yeah, more in a diving deeper into it and see why I am keeping myself in this small place while I feel and I know that there is much more outside that I can um, discover in this life and give in this life, because now I feel that I'm not able to um, give a lot. Mm. So yes, I also don't really know how to um, how to uh, treat myself. Yes, so I would like to see your. I would like to hear what you see and how you could. Um, yes, just
Can
give
you
me.
can you briefly describe or summarize what it is that you're clinging to when you say, like, I feel or believe that I still need it or need this? How would you summarize this, like the thing that's sort of keeping you small?
The imprisonment. I need.
Yeah,
I need
the
the prison.
imprisonment.
Mhm.
What is the prison for you? What does it consist of? And why do you need it? Or why are you continuing to create it?
It consists
But,
of a
mo
control.
but mostly,
It's a controlling system. It's a mechanism to control, to be of where it's the place where I can be in the prison. Does it make sense?
it makes sense in a general sense. totally. But I want to get clearer on what I want you to be clear on. What is this prison made of mentally? To control what? And to what end, or with what goal in mind? Why do you want to control yourself in a certain way? To reach where, or to attain what?
Yeah, it was, I think, also part of the conversation we had some years ago. It's like a self-punishment.
Yes, so the self-punishment
Mhm.
leads to
So
what? Like what does the mind believe that through that control and self-punishment?
I think it's purifying, but I know it's not, but I think it is.
Okay, and what is purifying for you? What does that mean? Why do you want that? What is purity? Why is that a goal in your mind? What does it represent for you? Why is it a good thing?
It's to come into like to pay off for God or something,
To say that again?
so I can pay my debt, God or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you can pay your debts to God? Repent? Repent for all your sins?
Mm-hmm.
We see this can be a beautiful transmutative energy. To repent. There is a real spiritual teaching behind repenting or penitence. However, in your case, you have conflated this with self-judgment or self-torture, and then it becomes distorted. Then it becomes something that's not as useful anymore. But for me and the people around me, there is an aspect to repenting that is sometimes part and parcel of our dynamic or of the teaching or of the learning. So it's not all bad. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some logic to purification sometimes through pain or through honest self-assessment or observation of where you have been off track, for instance. And then the discomfort of that acknowledgement, and then the bringing that back online. If you want to call that purification, that's great. To repent, to correct one's course. But why, for you, has that been confused with such a self-torture, self-judgment, I'm not worthy kind of a concept? Because if you practice repentance with a foundation in I am worthy, and I am God, and I am capable, then it becomes a beautiful transmutative energy to repent, to purify, to surrender, to course correct, to acknowledge, to apologize. These can be beautiful purifying energies that take you to the next level very quickly. But if that is infused with a concept of your little self being unworthy or being separate from God, then it becomes a negative cycle. Do you understand this?
Yes, I do. I feel it. It is exactly the problem that I still protect God somewhere far out
Yes.
of myself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the book I'm working on is going to help you release this concept. It's going to methodically is going to go through those insights and the logic and the clarity to help you really get to the conclusion that you are God in a balanced, true way. Still working on this. We'll release it in the next few months, probably as a sort of a trial version first to the adepts. But soon after, we aim to release this for free to everyone. So that's just a side note, but something to look forward to. Because in that book, I'll have the time, the spacing, and you have the time and space to really, sentence by sentence, let your mind deconstruct this notion of an external reality, anything. Matter, science, your dreams, your hopes, but also God. There is no external reality, you see, because there's only one reality. And if you exist and the one reality exists, then you must be that reality. There's no way that you're outside of God, or that you came from some other creation outside of the one infinite creator, and you entered the one infinite creator as a separate creature made of something else. It's impossible. You are fundamentally worthy of your awareness, of your union, your inseparability, indivisibility with God, your complete dependence, your complete reliance, your complete surrender, your complete union with God is unshakable. It is unaffected, it's stainless, it's immortal. So this is something that you want to understand and get through to yourself. Now, what is the benefit? What's the payoff, according to your mind, according to the delusion? What's the payoff in insisting that you are separate from God and unworthy, and that there's this distance between you and God? What are you getting out of that? Even though you know it's not real and it's not logical, but what does the mind think? What does your gremlin believe that is serving it?
Security and safety.
Sorry? Can you not have your hand between the microphone?
Security and safety.
Okay, wonderful. And why do you want security and safety? And that's a question everyone should ask themselves. And I've already touched upon this in this session when it came to sensations and feelings. That we're so scared of it that we're damming the flow of God, right? So why do you want safety and security? Why is that so high on your pedestal in order of priorities? Why is God not higher? Why is your freedom and your self-love not higher than safety and protection?
Because somehow I think it's necessary to be able to survive on this planet.
Great. Great. Okay. So you have created out of your experiences as a human body, interacting with others and worldly events and objects, you have created an image, which is just an idea. It's just an image. There's no truth to it. But nevertheless, you have developed, you have cultivated all over time through hard experiences, through painful sensations, through other people in conflict. You have generated a self-image that you have integrated, that you are separate from well-being, you're separate from wholeness, you're separate from the Creator, and that you need to protect yourself in order to survive, in order to be saved, right? The way that we filter experiences, this is the answer to my question, why is safety so high on so many people's pedestal? Why does it trump God? Why does it trump true love? Why does it trump freedom? Why does it trump surrender? Why does it trump the flow state? Why is protection and safety and security so high on our list of importances? Why do we dedicate our lives to it? Why are we so committed to being saved?
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you. For this, I'm going to briefly reference the energetic system known as the chakras or the rays. Every experience, if you picture the 7 chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and white, violet. So these 7 energy centers, if you picture sort of a circuit going through them all, and let's say that the circuit starts at the bottom and it goes up through these different energy centers, which can be equated to different states of consciousness, different frame of references, different levels of awareness. Every experience that you have as an individuated consciousness will energetically be filtered first through the bottom chakra. And this one is all about survival. So no matter what your experience is, no matter what you're experiencing any given moment, it might be just walking on the street, nothing's happening. It might be reading a book, very calm and peaceful, watching a movie. But it could also be a stranger starting a conversation with you, or a conflict with your husband, or some other kind of stressful event, let's say. But whatever it is, every perception that we have is first going to be assessed. You can see every chakra as sort of a brain of its own, a filtration process, a point of view, a frame of reference, a level of consciousness, okay? So it doesn't matter what you experience. Even me talking to you right now, constantly it's being filtered first, like immediately, before you can even think about it, immediately. Your interaction here with me right now is being filtered through, am I safe? Only if it passes that filter, meaning only if that mind, the root chakra mind, believes that our interaction right here, right now is safe, that you're not in jeopardy, that you are secure, only then will your second brain begin to have access to that experience and interpret it from its own level of assessment, its own intelligence, which we can go into what each level more or less represents or what the main filter is there. But the main point I'm trying to make here is that every experience you guys have will first be filtered through that chakra. Now, if you've developed a paranoid, overly exacerbated, an illogical, a grand scale delusion of when you're safe or not, so if you have expanded through trauma in childhood or whatever, if you have developed a really big root chakra brain filter that is assessing that almost everything is potentially unsafe, now you're really going to block the higher levels of energy and consciousness. You're going to block them from being able to access your day-to-day experiences and move your life forward from higher states of reasoning, higher states of clarity. Okay, so this is why people begin to really idolize and prefer securities, because they can't help it almost. It's the immediate response you have to an experience. And so if it doesn't go past that filter, if something in that root chakra brain is telling you your current perception might be unsafe, only very little data is going to trickle up into the higher understandings. And so you're not going to be able to have a free relationship with your own creation. You're not going to have a free relationship with God. You're going to be projecting it outward, separate from you, yourself as unsafe, and having to constantly defend yourself from freedom, freedom of expression, from other human beings, from their opinions, from God's wrath or judgment that we project is there, and so on, our own worthiness. Then obviously, if our perceptions always get sort of stuck at those lower centers of safety and security, we're going to create a consistently and repeat an experience of not being proud of ourselves, of not being courageous. We're going to develop a self-image that we are scared, that we are small, that we are vulnerable, that we are not honorable, that we don't prioritize the right things, that we need punishment, that we need purification in the negative sense. You see, so this is a cascade of negative reactions that are all born from the idea that you can be unsafe. Now, when we're able to bring our highest understanding, represented by the crown energy, which is open to the universal view, the universal identity beyond the person, if we can, in our meditation and such, in our contemplations, in simply listening perhaps to me, we can let that information, that certainty, that conviction descend all the way into this instinctive, immediate, knee-jerk reacting brain of the root of am I safe? And we can overwhelm it with the light of the universal self, which is stainless, like deep space, cannot be harmed, is always there. The more we bring 2 to 5 seconds of light into our root chakra, into that instinctive, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, and we reprogram it with this higher energy seeing that I cannot even be harmed, let alone be ever unsafe, that I am immortal, let alone ever at jeopardy or at risk. If we can bring that conviction of our universal self through 2 to 5 seconds, repeated many times, and we can bring that to our knee-jerk reacting, selfish, self-centered, self-protective person, which we can get rid of. It's okay that it's there because it's there to protect us. But we've taken it irrationally. A lot of us have expanded that filter of I can be unsafe, and we've applied it to so many irrational, illogical things that we're now stuck. There's a blockage there. It's no longer, because what it's designed to do is that when your senses perceive that an incoming train is about to hit you, the reason it's so quick, the reason it's the first filter is to ensure your survival. So that you jump out of the way, that you're not there like, train is coming. Let me meditate on this. What's the universal implication of this? What does it mean that a train is headed my way? What's the spiritual significance of this? You don't have time for that shit. You need to jump out of the way. Then you can meditate all you want. You can Google what does an incoming train represent spiritually and all that stuff, right? But so it's there for a good reason, but you have collapsed your logic, your reasoning, your mind with that safety mechanism too much, to where it's now illogical. When something, quote unquote, scares me that could potentially be a physical danger, I still get a very brief shock response, an adrenaline rush that is quicker than I can think. Okay, so let's say that the incoming train would be there. I can feel the immediate activation and rush of my adrenal glands and how that's streaming into my blood, and it's causing me to jump away. And it's an elevated heart rate as a result. I can feel that, but there's no personalization of that. Immediately after, because I know I'm safe no matter what, even if I'm dead, I'm immortally unsafe. So the system still functions. You could potentially, if you really catch me off guard, you could still scare me like, ah! But that's a split second. And immediately after, I've assessed the whole situation as being safe, like in less than a second. So for me, immediately the heart rate comes back down. The adrenaline is reabsorbed or whatever. And there might be some after effects physically for a second, but mentally, there is no fear right after. So it functions to protect, to ensure the survival of my body, like an automatic genetic programming, but it has nothing to do with my identity anymore. I'm not the one who got scared. I'm not the one who got shocked. It's got nothing to do with who I am. It's just a physiological, immediate response to ensure my survival. But if I have identified my sense of self, my self-concept, with that fight or flight response, then I can very rarely go into the higher energy centers and complete the circuitry, and I will not have access to liberation, to freedom of expression, to fearlessness in social situations, to honesty, authenticity, transparency, empowerment, confidence, all these beautiful qualities that make the entire system flow in a healthy way will be blocked if I tie my self-identity concept to am I unsafe. So we really want to separate that. We really want to understand it's okay for the body to respond, to be scared, to be on high alert when it needs to be. But it will do this anyway. You don't need to be logically concerned with your safety. That we want to elevate. That we want to detach from this immediate response to experiences. Does this make sense as sort of a methodology?
A lot, yes.
Yeah.
But also what I see is, or what I feel is, because it's over the years.
You hold your microphone.
Oh, sorry. I see that also over the years, it became so strong that I also lost the belief that it can ever heal. That because it's overtaking me completely, and especially at night, when you would say that I'm not controlling it with my mind, but like every morning I just can't even get out of my bed, and it takes about 2, 3, 4 hours before I can dress myself, for example, or and so it's like this whole time I invested in believing that I'm insecure. My body took it over and is securing me with this shield of pain. And I don't know if there is a chance for me.
If there is a what for you?
That a chance
Okay.
to undo it, that my body is not having to do this protection constantly, because it's now like automatic already. It's so I don't know.
Yes. So it's gonna. The thing is, it's always going to be automatic. The fight or flight response is always going to be automatic. That's why it's the first center. It's to ensure your survival as an incarnate being, which makes sense. It has practical value. So it's always going to be automatic. But what I think you want to do, love, is you want to deconflate that mechanism of fight or flight, which is always going to be there. But that's not a bad thing. But your identity is inside of it. Your sense of identity, your sense of self, your belief about what you are is wrapped inside of it. So you want to take that outside of that so that it can function as it's designed to function, but not limit your sense of self, not make you scared of irrational things, not project it onto everything. And in short, what's the reason, what's the reasoning or feeling as to why you don't get out of bed for a couple hours or more? What are you afraid of when you wake up in the morning?
It's not afraid, it's pain, physical pain. I cannot move.
Oh.
I cannot move my body. It's completely, all my muscles are like cable parts. So I'm constantly, even when I'm sleeping, I'm constantly thinking that the train is going to run over me, like every second, even when I sleep. So when I'm waking up in the morning, my body is like very, very hard, and just like what I say, like a prison structure. It's like a very, it's not malleable anymore. And then, like when I wake up, like my first thoughts are like, oh no, this body again. I have to go in the body, and then wait until I can do a little bit of.
Is there a medical diagnosis behind this, or this is just an energetic phenomenon?
No, there is some medical, but I don't really. Yes, there is. I have like a medical, how to say this, like an illness, chronic illness.
Okay.
Yes, two chronic illnesses.
Okay, this began when?
When I was 23.
Okay.
And now I'm 41.
And that was also you. Back then, you already had the fear and the insecurity of not being safe?
Yes, because it happened when I was in Israel during the war. I was doing studies there, and
Sorry, can you move your microphone up? You're a little hard to hear.
Yeah, so when I got this disease, I was really physically in a dangerous place. It was in Israel, 2006, when there was a war, and I was doing like for my thesis on the university. I was working there actually. So I was really unsafe at the moment, but of course it was just triggered at this point. For me, it was like it made a lot of sense that I got this disease, because already before I was with my mind constantly also imprisoning myself, and so now it just was the body that took it over, or something like this.
Yes, beautiful. Well, I mean, beautiful self-awareness. Okay, well, given this, I would like you to try something. I would like you to try, and this might take you some time, so it's not something necessarily to try right now on the spot, although you can imagine it. But I want you to try to become okay with being unsafe. So instead of trying to see that you're safe, which you can also do every 2 to 5 second moment that you stop thinking and you start recognizing God, you will be infused with the intrinsic knowing that you're safe no matter what. So keep doing that, 2 to 5 seconds, 2 to 5 seconds. But in addition, I want you to try a different approach. I want you to try, and it sounds like, in a sense, you have a lot of time in the mornings to try this because you're paralyzed. So I want you to try to completely accept that you can die, that you can be hurt, that you can physically die, that you can physically be harmed. So that you accept that completely, so that it's no longer a point of protection for you at some point. So instead of trying to see that you're safe, or in addition to trying to convince your system that you're safe, I want you to see if you can prioritize your freedom over being physically safe. And paradoxically, by completely accepting that you can and at some point will die, and that the body can be hurt, it can be harmed, it can be tortured, it can be stuck, it can be, and so on, by just accepting that instead of resisting it, by seeing that as part of life, and it's okay that you can die. It's okay that you can hurt. It's okay that you can be harmed. It's okay that this is a dangerous world. It's okay that you can get bombed to pieces. I want you to get to a place of acceptance where something opens up and your consciousness lifts out of that exacerbated brain of safety, so that it's no longer a point of interest for you. So that what comes for you is, so what? So what that I can be damaged? So what that I can be harmed? So what that this is a vulnerable body? So what that I can die at any moment? So what that I can get attacked? I want you to deconflate yourself from this brain of safety by both seeing that you cannot ultimately be harmed, like 2 to 5 seconds, as well as becoming completely okay with the fact that you can be harmed at a physical level, so that you are not tying yourself down to that level anymore, so that you're free, that you'd rather be free and take the risk of dying than stay paralyzed out of the risk of dying. So I want you to de-emphasize how important it is to be safe. It's not important to be safe. Not at all. It's not at all important. Once you can see that and like, yes, I'm gonna die. Yes, it's gonna hurt maybe. Yes, I'm gonna be harmed. Yes, I'm in danger all the time. So what? I don't care. I really don't care anymore. What I care about is freedom of expression. If I get bombed in the face the next second, I don't care. So be it. So that you are completely decharging this energy center from its current sort of overemphasis, its overactivity. Does this make sense?
Yes, and do I do this with my thoughts? Like, do I
Yeah,
be
imagination.
with my imagination? Yes, okay.
Yeah. You're really accepting. So no longer resisting and fearing, but actually embracing the fear of death, embracing the fear of physical harm, embracing the fear of danger and unsafety, to where you become, in a sense, a warrior instead of a fighter. You go towards it. You become a hero. You become someone who goes to the battlefield, who seeks out danger because it's no longer so high on the pedestal. What's much higher on the pedestal is love and freedom of expression and service to others and joy. Joy is so much more important than physical safety. If you can start embracing the fact that you will die and that you are vulnerable physically and that this is a dangerous world physically with a lot of sharp objects and edgy corners and missiles and whatever, if you can accept that, then it becomes a non-issue. It's like, okay, so what then? So I'm gonna die. I'm always armed. I could die at any point by something. So then what? What am I gonna do? Am I gonna just stay paralyzed here? No, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna not care about the fact that I'm gonna die. I'm gonna not care about the fact that I'm vulnerable, and I'm gonna live as if I'm invulnerable. I'm gonna have a good time until I'm dead, until I'm stabbed in the face. I'm gonna live fully and joyfully and praise God and show other people freedom until I get stabbed in the fucking head with a pencil by someone who means me dead. So what? So what? Fuck them. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Don't suppress yourself for that reason. Safety should be of no concern to you. That chakra will function. If a train is coming in, it will kick you out of the way. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to get involved in that. That will still function. But you energetically want to not care about your safety. Prioritize joy. Prioritize God. What do you want to prioritize? So I want you to decharge the fear of safety. Decharge it, decharge it, decharge it, both through 2 to 5 seconds of seeing how immortal your consciousness is, your real freedom, your real identity, as well as embracing the fact that physically you are vulnerable, you're going to die at some point, and you have no control over that. So fuck it, I'm going to live. Become brave. Truly brave, so you can be proud of yourself again. You can feel the worthiness. Oftentimes, the quickest way to self-worth and union with God is to be able to be honorably proud of yourself for how courageous you are. There is this mechanism where we continue to feel unworthy if we don't step out there and be courageous. If we continue to prioritize safety and safety and safety over God and what's important and what's true, we're always going to fucking hate ourselves. There's no way around this. You cannot up-level yourself. I'm so worthy. I deserve everything in the mirror. But safety, safety, safety. Those two do not compute. We got to be courageous. We got to stop fearing the nonsensical bullshit that it matters if we die, because it doesn't. Somebody doesn't like us. It doesn't matter. Somebody smacks us in the face. It doesn't fucking matter. If we're not courageous at some point, we're never going to have self-worth. Self-worth and courage go hand in hand. Confidence and courage go hand in hand. Be as courageous as you can be. Decharge this whole fear thing. Stop caring about your safety. Stop caring about your fucking self. Care about what matters. God, the whole, service to others, why you are here, freedom of expression. And you'll be the most confident person you know. And you'll be worthy by nature because you actually deserve it. Because you're actually prioritizing source, the only power that exists. This is yourself. This is your freedom. And I love you.
I want everything you say, but it's just that I wasn't able to because I didn't see it.
Yes.
But of course I want that.
Good. That's enough. I love you. Thanks for sharing. Try to take this on. See this. Anywhere that you feel unworthy, self-limited, self-judgmental, see if you can find how that's directly correlated to a lack of courage. That you haven't done the thing you know you really want to or need to do. And that when you step into that courage and you start sacrificing all of these little concerns for just doing the truest, brightest, rightest thing you know to do, your self-worth is going to skyrocket. It's going to transcend this petty little game of this stinky little pond of me, this, fear, ... When you're fearless, your self-worth is going to skyrocket. Do the fearless thing over and over and over again. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to quantum leap right now. But take that step, take that step, take that step. Build that muscle, and your self-worth will be given to you by the highest reality. You won't have to stand in front of the mirror and pretend that you're not fat. You don't have to stand in front of the mirror and pretend you have $5 billion in your bank account. You're not. You don't. You're fat and you're broke, and it doesn't fucking matter. It's got nothing to do with self-worth, okay? You got to be courageous, do the right thing, honor, 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 with a smile on your face whenever you can, in service to others whenever you can. The rest will take care of itself. You will develop a direct relationship to God that no one can take from you. But if you're not courageous, if you keep prioritizing this idea that it matters if you're safe or unsafe, you cannot live. You cannot let the dam burst and let the river flow. But if it does burn down and it does start flowing, God will take care of your self-worth, of your confidence. It's a whole other level of freedom and confidence and self-love. You cannot love yourself if you're not courageous every single day. You got to take that step. You got to make it difficult. Make the difficult choice when that's the true choice. Over and over again, you'll love yourself more than anyone could ever love you. You will feel God operating in your actions, in your thoughts, in your courage. Okay? Please, don't be small-minded. Have faith. Step out there. Do the thing you know you have to do. Sacrifice the little desires for the truth. And you'll become a man or woman of God, naturally. Thank you so much. Thank you for our time here as apprentices. And looking forward to this next chapter, reaching more people and getting more focus with the adepts as well. And yeah. Thank you for your questions. What else can I say? All love for you.
Thank you for watching this Bentinho live session. Bentinho now hosts these transformative live sessions completely free, offering profound insights and guidance to support your journey. To attend the next live session with Bentinho, simply visit massaro.university and follow the instructions to create your free account.